Here at St. Mary's, Mike Matoso. I prefer Veep of Sports.
I prefer that as well.
It's the official term, Veep of Sports. And a conversation with our Senior Associate Athletic Director for Advancement and former St. Mary's athlete, former baseball player, Gael baseball player, Tom Carroll.
Thanks, Courtney. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you guys for being here. And so, Mike, our plan is just to pummel you with questions for the rest of the day if you've got the time.
Up for you today. I'm ready to go.
All right. You did.
Yeah.
Is this everybody's first day getting dressed?
We've been on about 5 weeks, so yeah. So
I'm kind of disappointed you're not in Gael gear, though. What is this?
I went with the red, white, and blue, though. So I did go Gael with some of the – we were going to try to do it in the pavilion inside, but we had some technical issues with echoing, so we decided to do it here.
Dang.
We could have a guest join us, too, here at some point during the show.
Oh, fantastic. Surprise guest.
Surprise guest.
You bet.
All right, this is going to be good. Well, we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions, but we're gonna do some serious ones. Obviously, it's a very sad time for sports. Probably the saddest time to be in sports. Yes. But we're also gonna ask some fun ones.
Good.
The future is bright. So Tom's gonna kick it off. Tom's gonna go first.
So we'll start setting the tone positively. So we were in Las Vegas for the WCC Basketball Championships. Had some great performances against Pepperdine, BYU. Went into the championship game on Tuesday, March 10th. Played Gonzaga tough. We had dinner that night, came back to Moraga on the 11th, and then the world changed. So, Mike, what has happened starting, I guess, with that dinner like Tuesday night and then to where we are now?
Yeah, that dinner we had with a couple of execs and associated with Major League Baseball. And they were starting to say, like, listen, this thing's going to explode in this coming week. And we were kind of, first of all, we've been in Vegas for 6 days, so we were completely exhausted. But, you're kind of like, okay, I think it's going to continue to get bigger, but had no idea of the scope that was coming. Came back on Wednesday as we were leaving Vegas and games were starting to get moved to having no fans. So I got back here. I was planning on just kind of going home for the day.
Did we freeze?
Have we lost Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Froze up. It's okay.
We good?
You're back.
Come on, UCU.
So Mike, lead us into Thursday and Friday then. That's where we lost you. So we get back to campus on Thursday.
What's that?
So we get back to campus on Thursday. National games are starting to be canceled. The Big East, I think, tried to go live with games at the Garden without fans.
We moved my life.
And we started having conversations internally about what's coming. And then we met Friday morning in your office right there, and I think that's where you were trying to lead up to.
Good old my favorite building, trying to get. Let's see here. Am I on or no?
You're live.
I'm good?
You're good.
All right. So let's go with Wednesday. When we knew Wednesday, after we got the first announcement from the NCAA, no fans, then came we got home that night, and that was the first case with the NBA. And at that point, that was kind of the first indication that we might have some problems going on with the tournament. We had a staff meeting at 9:30 in the morning to discuss the selection show as well as how we were going to go about games the rest of the semester. And again, we met at 9:30 and told everybody we're going to meet again at 3. And I have a feeling that everything we just talked about is going to be out the door at 3 o'clock. And sure enough, it was. Am I still on right now? Good, or?
You're good.
I've done a million Zooms from this office, so I don't know why there are issues with it right now.
Oh, because we're live.
Yes, of course.
That's okay. Everyone can handle it.
We're good. So we, Thursday we got actually, as we were having calls, that's when we get the notification. So we actually heard like everybody else from the NCAA. Like I got a text message about the winter sports and the tournament. Then right after that, we got the announcement with the spring sports. And that was probably at the time the biggest surprise. I mean, if you start looking at championships for spring sports, I mean, they're in late June, so it was a big surprise that they were already going to cancel all the spring sports as well. So we started to do, some really difficult team meetings right away with kids. Obviously, I mean, I don't know how you get more disappointing. Obviously basketball it's a long year. We all spend a lot of time and effort. We also know the reward and how hard it is to get to that point in the year. So to have that just gone so quickly was obviously a huge shock. I mean, if kids like Jordan, who's 4 points away from being the all-time scorer, I mean, it was difficult for everybody. That, and then again, having the discussion with the seniors, especially with all the other sports like the spring sports, and not knowing what was going to happen with them, whether or not they were going to get another year of eligibility back or not. And then we kind of quickly moved to meeting on Friday with all the staff and coaches just to kind of give them, an update. And that was a hard part. Like the first, through this whole thing, I kind of equate it to like surfing a big wave. Like you get thrown and you're underwater and you don't know which direction you are. And then as soon as you get back up and get your head above water, you get hit again and you go back under. I mean, that's kind of how this has been. I mean, there's been no rhyme or reason to how you go about unless you're trying to plan and move things forward. Something else comes along and kind of throws it off.
So for us at the alumni office, we're just kind of going week by week. Everything seems to be changing. You're getting new information all the time, week by week. Is that how it is in athletics? I mean, athletics plans so far in advance. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult time. And I mean, Tom knows, this is our coming off of going into the tournament. I mean, this is our biggest time for revenue. Obviously, with the Gael Golf Classic, the Gael that we're throwing as a new event, and just the amount of other, philanthropy opportunities that we have with the success of with basketball and going to the tournament spurs a lot of other giving. So, yeah, I mean, we've just had to be really fluid and flexible. My new favorite word is pivot, because we have to pivot pretty much every day now and what we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, you're trying to hold on to different, events, but you're also coming to realization. And I think the one thing that I've gotten a little bit more through this thing is just a little bit better understanding of, okay, we got to really come up with other scenarios and how we're going to do things based off of what happens. And that's really, we now have a weekly AD call every Tuesday morning at 7. And everyone's in the same boat. Like you just don't know right now. You don't know what's going to be coming, in the next month or 2 months. And obviously we'd hope that we have our kids back and we start moving. But again, we just don't have enough information at this time.
And like you mentioned about fundraising, sorry, Tom, but we did pivot fundraising online, the card drawing. You're not going to miss the card drawing this year. You got to get your ticket.
You're not. No, that was it's been a long-standing event. We actually had a lot of interest in continuing the event. So, we're also trying to be respectful of everybody's financial situation right now, but there was enough interest in the event to continue with that, as well as the same thing with season tickets for men's basketball. Had a lot of interest in that, and those are moving really well right now too. So we're we have a lot of savings with the spring. There was a good amount of savings because you're basically pulling everybody off the road. But along with that, we also a lot of revenue opportunities that we're looking forward to in the coming months. Obviously, we need to look at a little bit differently here in the coming year.
Yeah, to go back to something you spoke about, Mike, we actually received several questions ahead of this from our fans that are out there watching us live now. One of the things you talked about was the NCAA has extended another year of eligibility for all of our spring sport athletes. If we're going through the process right now of looking into how we can fund those. We've been meeting with coaches, so if you can give our fans an update on where we stand with that, I think they'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we had probably about 26 to 28 students that were in that group. We had some students that already had jobs already planned. The good thing about St. Mary's is pretty much everyone's on track to graduate in 4 years. So a lot of it was with some of the other students is, did they want to continue, and look at getting, a master's degree or at least going to a master's program for 1 year. And we had some students that were already planning on coming back for their senior year anyways, academically. So the question is then, like, okay, well, how do you fund it? So I think we've really been looking at how we get as creative as possible with, because the NCAA still hasn't answered all the questions as well, whether or not a student can take non-matriculating classes, whether they can go part-time. So, a lot of it is just trying to figure out, how best to do it. I think we're really close. We're down to probably about 12 to 13 students that this is going to impact. So starting to move forward with that group. The bigger issue that we're going to have to deal with is going to be in the coming years. I mean, that was for all spring sports. So you're going to have a lot of students that, are going to finish their eligibility and graduate and have a 5th year of eligibility, essentially. And so we're going to have a lot more students looking at master's programs. And, Corey Cook on the academic side of class, the campus has been great with looking at, redoing some programming for students. And so, again, we're kind of waiting for a lot of those answers before, but we're also, having discussions with the kids and the coaches at this time.
What's the morale like for the kids? I mean, I know what it felt like for us when we were planning to go to the NCAA tournament. It was crushing. What's that like for our student athletes who are now home and missing campus and missing their friends and their teammates and the game?
Well, I have a surprise guest that's in my office right now.
Oh, no way!
RB.
Looking for something to do. I finally found it.
Randy.
I'm sorry. Let me go get my gloves on.
RB, you got anything to say to everybody?
That's the best smile there is on campus right there. That's all I got to say.
That's nice.
How we holding up?
Pretty
All
good
good.
over here.
All right.
How are you holding up?
No, you're live on Facebook right now with other
Yeah,
people.
you're live.
Hello, everyone. I just came in to make sure this guy was working. He was. All right, I'm
I
out.
love it.
Stay safe.
Thanks,
Bye,
Thanks,
RB.
RB.
All right. See you guys. Let's go, Gaels.
Let's go, Gaels. Dang,
I love it.
Matoso, you outdid yourself with that
Got
one.
a little pop right there, I tell you.
Well
I
done.
thought
Well
you were
done.
going to bring in Gideon the Gael.
Of course, he had no idea what this was, so I'm sure he was talking directly to you.
That
So
was
let's,
good. That was a good Zoom
since we
bomb.
had that pop in there, the Zoom bomb, talk a little bit about Randy. Road trips with men's basketball. You and I, Mike, we're on most trips. Courtney joins us on some trips as well. We have some loyal fans. I'm thinking of the Mike Brisbanes of the world that are with us, throughout the country in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. What's it like traveling with men's basketball with Randy?
It's interesting. I mean, you look at how, and I say that because, I think when before you're here, you look at the outside of that program and you wonder, A, how has it been so successful? And then B, how do you maintain that? And the level of dedication that he has with his staff, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, he'll watch more film and outwork we really don't, other than meals and going to shoot around, you really don't see him because, I mean, the staff is working on film and game planning. And, even like when we went up to Spokane the second time here, I mean, they literally scrapped everything and went with an entire different game plan based off of what they saw in film. So, I mean, it's very regimented. You want to make sure you drive yourself to the airport so that you're not getting there 10 minutes before the plane takes off, because Randy is not the most patient person, so he really doesn't like sitting in airports. So, it's a wise decision if you have anxiety to actually drive yourself to get there a little earlier so that you're not running to the gate. But no, it's for the most part, it's a business trip, and I mean, the kids, they're focused, and, you think you have a lot of downtime, but you really don't. I mean, it really, you stay very focused and it's, but it's a blast. We have great kids. I mean, we really do. And that's across the board in all of our sports. I mean, when you travel with our teams, you realize what great student athletes we have here, how well they represent us, how polite they are on the road, which is, we get comments about that all the time. I said this earlier, I kind of did an experiment earlier this year with a team that was playing here. And I coming out of the pavilion after shoot around, so I held the door open for them as they left, and not a single student said thank you or even acknowledged me as they walked out. And had that been our team, and not just our men's team, or any of our programs, all those kids would have said thank you as they were walking out. But Randy definitely has you're staying at the same hotels, you're going to the same restaurants. Like, it is definitely a routine. Probably my favorite stop would be the Red Lion in Spokane, which you pull up to it, the bus, and looks like just a dive bar. It has a "We Speak Canadian" sign on the outside, and you walk through the bar area, and everyone's just staring at you. And then you go into this back room, and the food is outstanding. So, but it's pretty much the routine of it's pretty similar wherever you go.
Are those traditions based on superstition?
Well,
I know.
100%.
I mean,
RB does not like a lot of change. So It is, we like to keep things very comfortable with where we're going.
I mean, I think everyone around it starts picking up on that. I don't wear the same thing if it doesn't have luck to the next game. I mean, I'll burn half my closet if I have to, if we didn't win in that.
We won the 2019 WCC championship in Las Vegas, and he told us that night to book the rooms for next year at the Park MGM. And sure enough, we were back there this year, and it worked again. Had some improbable wins.
We're definitely going to have to get to that game on this call at some point, for sure. But we do have a question from Facebook, from Anthony Quadro. How is recruiting going for Randy? Is it all over Zoom?
Is it what?
Is it on Zoom? Is recruiting on Zoom?
Is it virtual? Is it all virtual right now?
Tom, do you want to tell your story first of all on his laptop? Because that's a great. Tell that, then we'll get into this.
Yeah. So some context to our fans. One of our alums, one of our great tip-off club donors, a class of '84 member, I actually had him over for practice earlier this season and gave him a tour of Randy's office. This gentleman happens to work for Apple, of all places, and Randy is probably using an original 15-year-old MacBook. I don't even know if it's a MacBook laptop. I wanted to show this gentleman Randy's computer, which is sitting on Randy's desk. It doesn't move. It probably weighs 25 pounds. And this guy saw that laptop and said, God, I haven't seen one of those in probably 15 years. And this is a guy who works at Apple. And so the joke was that, hey, after the season, let's talk. We'll get Randy a new laptop and everything like that. And I was very hesitant to ask Randy about this because I know you're hearing all these stories now about how superstitious, how stubborn, everything else he is. He doesn't want to change. But sure enough, that laptop, I believe, crashed yesterday or the day before after about 15 years. So
he's very excited about his new laptop.
Yes.
That
gives you any context.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any zooming, or there's no zooming going on right now.
He doesn't even know he just zoomed just now.
Yeah, he had no idea what that. He literally thought he was talking to you right there. So yes, that was it.
I can answer from other sports perspectives. I work with our baseball team and our golf team quite extensively, and our baseball team is very tech savvy, so they are doing a lot of stuff over Zoom, a lot of virtual tours, all that kind of stuff, because they have to right now. That's the only way to get in touch with kids. So it is definitely happening that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're already starting to see, I think TCU just announced 2 days ago that they're going to ban all campus travel until August the 1st, both domestic and international. So, I mean, July is the biggest month of recruiting for basketball, as well as a lot of our other coaches and programs.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we ask next, Tom?
So where do we want to go now?
Where do we go? Where do we go?
I'll bring us back to something a little bit more serious, but good for our fans and people watching to know. There's been a lot of construction at St. Mary's the last few years. We've opened up UCU, the full renovations there. We have some ongoing projects, the weight room, SAPC Phase 2, Brother Ron Gallagher Stadium, which we recently announced. Just give us a brief update on those projects.
Yeah, obviously this is throwing a little bit of a wrench in everything, given some of those projects that we're still fundraising for, as well as some of the restrictions right now on construction. So right now, and also just even with permitting, even through the county, since the county is not open right now, moving forward on that. But the weight room has still continued. They're setting the forms right now on that facility, so we should be pouring the slab on that within the next week, and then from there it'll settle for about a week, and we'll start putting the building up. So we're still targeting a June 19th opening for the weight room. We're pretty much done with design and finishing engineering for Phase 2 of UCU. So it's just going to be how long are permits going to take, and like I said, I have a feeling that's going to be a fairly slow process once the county opens up, because there's going to be a pretty long backlog. But we're still having weekly meetings on this. We've done a lot of work previous to all this happening. So again, we will be, we'll be moving on that when we're ready to go. And then, baseball was the one that we probably, I said, we're still bringing in money for the project. We're just trying to be sensitive to, going out too much on that one right now. We still think that, as we've kind of talked about, we need to move. We've been so focused on our capital projects because it is such a big need, but we're going to have to do a little bit of a switch this year to focus a little bit more on our annual. But again, we're still going to, so the rugby soccer clubhouse is the other project that we've been, we're actually supposed to have a meeting tonight, I think.
Tonight.
Yeah. So I think our focus for, capital next year will be still that project, as well as the baseball seating. And then we have some smaller upgrades to softball that we've already have most of the funding in on. And then again, for the most part, we're switching all of our efforts to our annual, because that's going to be the greatest need for this coming year. And I think, along those, you look at, with the budget, and obviously, we're looking at, things that we need to do to get more resourceful, and, we're already not funded, very well within the WCC. So it's figuring out how, especially this year, how we look at things to stay as competitive as possible, so that when this thing, does end and we are back in full gear, that we haven't skipped a beat. And that's really, as I'm kind of looking at different areas within the department, trying to figure out, again, how, and I'm actually starting meetings right after this with head coaches for the next 3 days on some of the strategies that we're going to look at for this coming year.
How can alumni support? What do you need from alumni to support Gael athletics right now?
Just staying involved any way you can, stay interested in what we're doing. I think that's one of our biggest things right now is knowing, I've said this before, I think that's why St. Mary's is such a special place, that, so many people care about it, and the people that have gone through and our alums have such a strong affinity to the college. And that's what makes St. Mary's very different, in my opinion. So just knowing that you're out there and you care about the program. And, I said, I think it's going to be a really exciting time when we do get back to the point where we are playing again, because people are going to be excited to see, our programs back on the fields.
Yeah. Tiny but mighty.
That's right.
We're always the
Efficient.
smallest. We're a pretty small group when we're in Las Vegas, but
Yes,
we're full of passion.
we are. No,
And we pick up fans from everywhere.
You bet.
I mean,
we had a lot of fans those last few minutes of that BYU game. That's for certain.
oh, did we ever? I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, these guys are really in the first game.
That's why Jordan's behind me right now,
That's right.
making that game winner.
That was pretty fun.
So to your point, Mike, about the fans and our alumni, and that's one of the great things about being on the road with our program, specifically basketball, because wherever we go, again, I'll bring up Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
We probably had 40 to 50 St. Mary's people in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yep.
People from the Midwest, people traveling from, Seattle, from the Bay Area. I mean, but that's what makes us unique. You don't see other schools' fans or anything like that at different places that we go to. So that's what makes it enjoyable here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see the loyalty even at their home arena in a lot of our places.
Correct.
I mean, seriously, I mean, it really is what makes St. Mary's unique, especially for California and how California is and the attendance that you see overall. As we were kind of going through the UCU negotiations, that's with David Tuya, with the CEO, like that was one of the things I would say, like, you don't get it. Like you'll see it when you are a part of it. You'll see how different it is. You'll see the loyalty, the passion that a lot of other places just don't have. And since that time, he said, he's like, I get it now. I totally understand what you're talking about.
What's been, and maybe that's it, but what's been the most surprising or exciting thing about St. Mary's for you since taking on this role?
I think, being able to come into a role where you're not funded well, your facilities are not great, you're kind of got your back against the wall, and you go out and you don't care who you're playing or what the name says across the front of the jersey at the other school, and you go out and you compete and you win. I mean, that just makes it fun, and we do it the right way. I mean, you look at this, we had to unfortunately cancel the President's Luncheon honoring student athletes with 3.25 GPA or higher, and we had 98 student athletes. I mean, 98 of our 275 student athletes had a 3.25 or higher.
Yeah.
I mean, as a department, we had a 3.28 department grade point average in the fall. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And, like I said, I think across the board with our coaches, that we have a great group of coaches that all work hard. I mean, we really have, I think it's kind of funny. Like when I first got here, I've said this before, like a coach like, well, I don't care about this facility or that facility. And you're like, okay, like we really kind of like the blue collar mentality that we have here. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but you can be blue collar and not have some nice things. Like, like we're not talking about the bells and whistles that, other schools have. And I think that's part of that efficiency of what we've tried to do. I mean, trust me, as we did the second design on this building, I mean, we probably had 200 different versions of what we wanted to do. And I think we really have come up with all of our facilities, even what we designed down at baseball, how we came up with the idea with beach volleyball, with what we're doing at rugby and soccer. Like we've really come up with, ideas that, are going to be, what we can do. Like we kind of know what our donor base is. We know the importance of trying to having a really broad base of what we do from a donor standpoint. And try to just ultimately, as I always say, this really comes down to the experience of the kids. I mean, everything that we do, everything behind it is so that our student athletes have a great experience here. And they will then continue that legacy that St. Mary's has.
I think that's why St. Mary's is so good at picking up fans that aren't necessarily connected to the school. It's an easy place to root for.
I would agree.
You tapped into a question that I've had for a while. Hadn't thought of this in advance, but you mentioned beach volleyball. And I have a question about beach volleyball. Why is it called beach volleyball and not sand volleyball, considering there is no beach between Justin and Mitty Hall? This is inquiring minds want to know.
You'll have to ask the NCAA for that one.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom.
I gotcha.
I need answers.
I'll look.
That's a different Zoom call.
Yeah. Text Rob run over
the
here.
tournament is at the beach, I think. So I guess that's all that counts.
We do play at a lot of beaches, though, throughout the year.
It's not in Moraga.
Let's stay consistent with the professionals as well. So
all right.
Correct. And the Olympic sport.
Yeah.
Of beach volleyball.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, learning so much. All right. Let's see. What's your favorite? Your favorite St. Mary's sports memory you've had so far?
Well, the easy one to say would be winning the WCC championship last year, which that was awesome. But I would say hosting Stanford here in the second round for men's soccer last year.
Yeah.
That is the first NCAA postseason championship event ever on the history of the campus.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was such a cool environment. We had over 3,000 people at that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a great environment. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was just a fun day and, overall just such an exciting, thing to be a part of. And I heard that from a lot of people that came as well. And I think it showed what you can do with that program, as well as our women's program. And that's why I think we've been looking at upgrading that facility. I think if you put in that clubhouse and put lights at that facility, you can recreate that environment pretty frequently. So, but I would say that on top of our little departure from the week before of having to go down and play at Fresno Pacific.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun things happened here since I've been at St. Mary's with power outages and wildfires and so
only the best. Only the best.
Very excited.
Only the best for the Gaels.
Yes, it's very exciting.
That I would say that the St. Mary's Stadium is like a little hidden gem of Bay Area sports facilities. It's such a beautiful spot to watch a game.
I would agree. No, I think if you were to add in those if you were able to put lights out there and get that clubhouse out there, I think you'd make it one of the nicer venues in the state. Such a cool setting.
Yeah.
Again, grow back there. I mean, I said it opens up so many different opportunities for the college as well.
I remember at that game against Stanford, we were trying to get to the other side of the field. We thought we could follow you. You're the AD.
I know I got kicked out.
If we're with this guy, and you got kicked out, we all got kicked out.
Yep.
I know.
I'm like, I guess it doesn't matter who your friends are.
Not with you today. No, it does not.
Not
Although
for NCAA events.
we did pick up an entourage as we went, so we were not very covert.
It was not discreet. It's true. It was not discreet. But those NCAA games, they're serious. They've got rules.
They are. I know. That was disappointing.
Let's see.
Where do we want to go next, Courtney?
I don't know.
Should we dive deep into Mike Matoso's baseball career here?
Yeah, let's
for those
do it.
For those that don't know, Mike was also a college baseball player. Played at College of San Mateo, then played at Cal Poly SLO. Devastating pitcher. Small but mighty. It seems to be a theme here.
Is this why you guys get along so well? Two former pitchers. Tom
both had arm injuries at the end. Yes,
that both weren't very good. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Tom had a head injury. He's too tall to be out there. Can't get his head out of the way. Very. Yeah, tell us a little about it.
Actually, St. Mary's was actually the first camp. So I went to College of San Mateo after graduating from Carmignani. So during that time or during that period, Division I schools could play junior colleges. So St. Mary's is the very first college that I ever pitched on at junior college. I know, it's very exciting. Yeah, no, played 2 years there and had a good sophomore year and got a scholarship down to Cal Poly and had the opportunity of playing in the College World Series my senior year, and then I stayed on as an undergraduate assistant and then actually played in the national championship game during that year. So, yeah. So thought I wanted to coach and then went over, played in Sweden and just didn't work out. Decided to come back and fell into this crazy line of business.
Wow. How long have you been in athletics administrator?
About 24 years. Cal Poly, USC, University of San Diego, Stanislaus, and here.
Dang.
And another cool wrinkle to the story is now his daughter is a collegiate athlete playing beach volleyball or sand volleyball as well as indoor volleyball.
Yeah.
Very proud of her. She's done very well. She was going to be one of those 98 students. It was a perfect opportunity to completely embarrass her on the stage, which I fully planned out. But no, I'm proud of Abby and what she's done. She coming here and deciding to walk on, and I told her, even if you do that, that's all going to be set up, on your own. And it's a difficult situation to walk into. And she, worked with Rob and she's worked, really hard and got a good amount of playing time last year. And, like I said, I think she works very hard both in the classroom and on the court and has earned everybody's respect and has become a good leader within that program. So very proud. She likes to remind me, because I played my last 2 years Division II, so she likes to remind me she's the only Division I student athlete ever in the family. So, yes.
Ooh.
I figured that would come too.
Oh, yeah. That comes all the time.
A little family rivalry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We got a comment from Facebook from Daniel Rivas. I remember some of Mike's baseball stories over at Stanislaus.
Oh, your fan base is following you on this, Mike.
Oh.
You're bringing in the crowd.
It actually came in full circle for me, though, going to Stanislaus, because they compete in the CCAA, which is what I played in. So, there's not a lot of, you look at every sport, and that's the thing with, really good Division II programs. Every sport is just a little bit different. It was actually interesting going from having been in Division I for close to 18 years and then going back to Division II. You'll realize like a Cal Poly Pomona baseball program or UCSD right now or I mean, they're really good. I mean, they are really good. I mean, you more get into kind of like the depth of the bullpens, but I mean, the position players, it's not a ton of difference, so it was interesting kind of going back and seeing that across the board with like all the sports are just slightly different, whether it be the size in basketball and speed, or with baseball and the depth, and volleyball, the size of the outside hitters. I mean, they're all really great athletes and fun to watch.
And there's some difference in road trips, van trips from Pomona to Stanislaus to Humboldt. So that's a little different than chartering to Gonzaga.
I was telling Tom and Ryan Reggiani that the other day when our travel partner for you never flew in Division II. You're always on a bus.
Mm-hmm.
So our travel partner or Pomona's travel partner was Humboldt. So the road trip would be you leave Wednesday, drive down to Pomona, you play Thursday night, you get back on the bus, drive back to campus in the Central Valley in the middle of the night, get home around 2:00, go to bed, wake up around 7, get on another bus, drive all the way to Humboldt, play that next day, and then come back the following day. So it's a tough road trips. So
what's it like, speaking of former schools, what's it like for you going with the Gaels on the road, like to USD?
I want to beat them as bad as we can.
We had good burritos.
Yes, we did. I took Tom to a few of my favorite spots down there, so it was good. But no, I have a lot of great. I mean, I think it's I've been in this conference now for 18 years, so I have a lot of great relationships with people at a lot of different schools, but I want to beat every single one of them.
Speaking of that, this might go into superstition. This just goes into general mood during a game. You have a bit of a reputation.
Yes.
To maybe not want to engage in chatter during a game.
No.
And perhaps you're waiting to make a move if you feel like, you gotta not stand in the same spot too long.
The only game I talked in the men's side this year was Arizona State. It's the only game I didn't move.
Best game, yeah.
The only game I actually talked. Like this, especially this team this year was not good for me because I was on the move. Usually if like 3 shots don't go on, I'm finding a new corner.
What's the point threshold though? Because the Arizona State, I mean, that like you're 40 points.
Like 20-ish. That kind of gets me in a little bit chatty mood. I mean, when we really want to get pathetic, I actually may come in here and watch a game on TV in my office. So those nights occur as well. So when the corners aren't working, then I just actually come in here and turn.
If corners aren't working, yeah.
Got to be on the move. Not a lot of places to go in this arena, so you gotta.
No.
That's true. That's true. Do you ever hide in the upstairs corners or just in the downstairs corners?
I'll go to Hall of Fame. Usually where Tom is during tough games as well. So I'll go Hall of Fame. I'll try the other corners up here. Like sometimes I take a little walk around campus. So gotta do what you gotta do.
You're the only one with in and out privileges.
Yeah. You gotta. Sometimes you find it fairly pathetic where you're like, wow, this is a really big game and everyone's excited to be here. And I'm actually sitting in my office all by myself watching it. So maybe I'll go back out. But maybe I won't.
That's great. Let's see. I think we've gotten any other questions online. Anything else you want to touch on, Tom, that we haven't hit?
Well, it looks like we maybe won another question that was popped up, which was, kind of going back to being on the road. Fortunately, we win a lot of games on the road, at home, whatever. What is your celebratory drink after a game? It's a question from one of our fans.
I'm going vodka tonic. Good win. We're going vodka tonic.
Vodka tonic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tito's specifically.
I'll give a shout out to Fast Eddie's in Spokane. That's my favorite place to go have it. Nothing better than going to have a drink after a game in Spokane. So.
Yes, and again, just like the Red Lion Inn, there's Gonzaga gear everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they welcome you for that little hour that you're there.
About 5 Gaels in there, and everything else is Spokane. So yeah, it's my favorite place to walk into. And then in terms of I know one of the questions, like winning on the road, that's obviously a great place. And then I think I go second. I go beating BYU or Santa Clara anywhere. So it can be home, it could be away, it could be neutral. Beating out of one of those two at any location is.
You know, it's so crazy from the alumni side. Santa Clara is our traditional rival. I mean, going back decades, Santa Clara was it.
Centuries.
Centuries. Our current students don't really feel that as much. Obviously, Gonzaga and BYU bubble to the top for students now, but you know, Santa Clara, it's like in your blood when you're a Gael. You can't like Santa Clara. It's wrong.
No.
It's brutal. Although this was my first road trip to BYU this year. Yeah. I had gone everywhere.
Feeling if we had won that game, that would have been right up at the
top
there.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. That was a pretty cool environment.
That is they have quite an operation. I got to give them credit for that.
I'll give them that.
Yeah.
So touch on that we played that game in front of probably 18,000 people at the Marriott Center that night. You know, we played games at home where at the sellout we're just shy, 3,500 or so. Then you go to different venues in the conference, Malibu, Pepperdine, which is one of the most beautiful places in the country. You might be playing in front of 700 people, so maybe talk about, dealing with those experiences. Cause you're right. The highs are really high. But also Pepperdine on the basketball side has been one of the toughest places for us to play in the last several years.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes just tough to get up for those games, not just up for those games, but I mean, you go down to, not to pick on my former employer, but I mean, USD, I mean, the venue could not have been more empty this year. And I think it makes it tougher to compete at that level, whether or not you maybe don't have, people behind you, or, just trying to figure out how to play in that environment. And when you do keep those games close, the few people that are there, are now getting, it's just changing. I mean, obviously sports are all momentum, and it just kind of changes the momentum. You almost feel it more, in those places. But I mean, Marriott, it's pretty. I mean, same thing with Gonzaga. I mean, those are pretty cool, and it's a tight game, and there's a few minutes left. But I would argue the same with ECU. Like, I mean, this pavilion gets rocking, and it's a tough place to come in. I mean, speaking of Santa Clara, as tough as that loss was at home this year, I went home that night. I wasn't really in a very good mood, and I realized, though, other than BYU or Gonzaga, that was the first conference loss at any team other than those two teams since I've been here. And I talked with Ryan and Tom. I think it was since 2014 when BYU won here. Was that
went back several years? Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. When you are coming from other mid-major programs that, are hoping to get 15 wins a year, and they're up and down. I mean, that's what makes this program so special. And like I said, it was probably the hardest thing to accept as you got to the end of this year was you work so hard. I mean, those last 3 weeks with UOP, Santa Clara, I forget what other games we had in that span, but it's like 3 weeks. You're like, we can't lose. Like, we have to win these games during these periods of time. So, I mean, other schools don't, other programs don't have to worry about that. I mean, that's what's so impressive about, I mean, you would have been in the postseason 13 straight times. When you talk about other people coming in and trying to even crack into that top three, like, maybe someone will, but then how do you stay there? you know, and like I said, across the board, that's what's so impressive with so many of our sports, that, you know, we really don't worry about what we don't have. You know, we focus in on what we do have. And, you know, like I said, I think our coaches, again, with all of our sports, do such a great job. I mean, you don't have to look at any different when you're looking at, you know, the top 25 of men's soccer. You know, you go through the list of teams in the top 10, like, you know, we're the only, you know, Power 5 school that's on that list. You know, so it's pretty impressive with what our programs do as a whole.
Yeah, this year, you know, we knew we were going to be good in basketball coming into the season. Preseason top 25, preseason top 20 in several polls. We struck an interesting relationship with Joe Lenardi, the ESPN bracketologist. You know, he came and spoke at our tip-off dinner. He was at a few games, including the Santa Clara loss and the BYU win at home. Maybe just give a little insight to our fans about that. I know the three of us on right here on the screen got to know Joe pretty well. Still are in touch with him. So maybe just give some insight into Joe and maybe his impact on the program this year.
Yeah, I would definitely say first and foremost, Joe is definitely a Gaels fan at this point. You know, he
and we're Joe fans.
Yeah,
Joe
he's a good dude. Like he really, you know, he came out. He was doing some scheduling with West Coast Conference and the coaches, and, you know, Aaron Wishko from the conference office suggested, hey, why don't you come over and meet with Randy for the day? And we did. We sat down. We went over scheduling. That's really how we came up with the Dayton and the Utah State game. Was meeting with Joe. So we had 2 games to give. Then we went to lunch, and, you know, he had just retired from St. Joe's and was like, hey, I'm maybe be kind of interested in working with you guys throughout the year on what you're doing from a marketing standpoint and how you promote the program. He's like, you know, you are without question, you know, the most successful, you know, Division I mid-major program in the country. You know, comparatively, we've taken Gonzaga right now kind of out of that picture and what they've done. I mean, that program's just at a different level in terms of what they've done, but like right there within that conference, you know, looking at what you've done and then how do you take that next step. And I think that was, you know, what we tried to do with Joe. And he has a lot of knowledge and access. And, you know, you go to the UOP game as an example, the 4, you know, overtime game loss, and, you know, clearly there was a goaltending in that. You know, I think it was I can't even remember. The second overtime was a game that has just been over. You know, I mean, Joe actually was here and contacted ESPN and volunteered to go on the air to actually talk specifically about that play. You know, so having his ear and having access to him to ask questions as you go throughout the year, you know, and also helping out with, you know, across campus and ideas on how we better market the program for the entire college. It's been great. I mean, there's a lot of times like we'll play an 8:00 start game, and, you know, we'll get over 10:30, and, you know, he's texting us back from Philly, you know, great game. You know, he's the very first person to text me after the BYU win, and was just like, congrats, like, I'm so happy for you guys. And I know he sent a picture of Courtney that night in specific gear that he was wearing that evening. But no, I think he likes the, you know, kind of that underdog that, you know, the first time he walked into the arena here, he took a big breath and he's like, this just smells like a mid-major. He knows how hard it is to do what we're doing. And it just keeps getting more difficult each year. And so I think he really respects what Randy's done with the program. And so I think he's been, you know, I mean, we just, even with the, you know, after the tournament is doing the virtual tournament. I mean, we were the lead story on, I think it was on MSNBC on their sports page, like, you know, on several other newspapers. There's a picture of Tommy and Jordan on that. Like, so I think we, you know, having him help us out through the year was a really good decision in a lot of different ways. I think a lot of our fans really enjoyed that, as well as saw what he was actually doing for us. And a lot of times you do those, arrangements or ideas, and they don't kind of plan out the way that you hope. And I think that really worked out well for us.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. I just got a question from Arlene, one of our biggest fans down in Southern California. She's asking how our student athletes are doing. Both the kids that are local. We obviously have several international students from across the world through various sports. Maybe give some anecdotes on how the kids are doing and how the coaches are keeping track of them. How they're communicating with them.
Yeah, I think when the coaches have been in constant contact with the students. One of the things I was trying to be really sensitive to, especially initially, was knowing that, first of all, we don't know what's going on with every single student in their home. Kids are, like all of us, they're all dealing with different things that are going on. And we have one student athlete right now whose mom has a virus and is very sick in ICU. So, trying to be respectful of everybody's, whether it be a financial situation or health situation. And we've kind of opened that back up to now allowing the coaches more to have formal meetings with the kids. And I know they're all doing, Zoom meetings with their students and their teams. And we've kind of now opened that back up to some other activities, because I think, they're actually wanting that now. They're definitely, because again, you come on campus right now, it's closed. No one's really getting on campus at all right now. So I think they're all trying to start to give them now getting back into the mindset of, okay, let's get moving again. Because I think that, obviously they had to make a huge transition from going to, classes, on campus to them being away from their friends and, packing up and going home. I think if that's one thing with this generation, that, everyone has been so much of the mindset that, their heads are buried in their phones and, they're not overly social. And I think that's the one thing we've learned as well as they've learned, is they really do enjoy being social. They really do miss campus and being around other students. And, so I think now the coaches are all taking a very active role. And I think that speaks to, what college athletics is about. That's, you have such a strong bond with, the coaches on the teams. That's where athletics is really such a different culture within a college setting, because you have that kind of built-in support system. And I think that's our coaches are doing such a great job right now in playing that role with everybody.
And that, to expand on that support system, I know we're on Zoom calls every day with our administrative staff, that our academic support people are Zooming with student athletes, our sports medicine, our trainers, our strength coaches. So I think these kids, along with their professors, they're in touch with their coaches. It's just different right now, but that communication is there.
And realize too, we also have the largest international population on campus. We have more than half the international students on campus are student athletes. So we're dealing with, kids that are, from New Zealand that have to literally get like a pass just to go out of their house to go to the grocery store. So that's where we've been really sensitive with physical activity and going out and doing things, just because of the different restrictions on everybody based off of where they might be. But again, I think just having that, contact of seeing their teammates and their coaches has been great. Our coaches have done a great job with that.
Yep.
Great. Well, that wraps us up. It's 12:59. We had a fun time talking with you, Mike.
Thanks, Courtney. I enjoyed
Thanks for sharing all this valuable insight. What do you want? What's your final thought? What's your final thought for everyone tuning in?
I just think, to be excited about when we get back. We will get back.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be. I even tell the coaches and staff yesterday, it's like, I don't know what it's going to look like, this year. I think we'll be playing, but when or what that's exactly going to look like, I don't know yet. But, when it does, we'll be ready to go. That's a lot of what we're doing right now with, a lot of the planning is trying to figure out all those scenarios and just be excited when we're back. Come out and support us, and go Gaels.
Go Gaels. Perfect way to end it.
Yep.
Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for spending your lunch break with us today. And we'll see you when we can all be together again.